Birds are an essential part of our world, even in ways we don't immediately notice. Moreover, they have been around for a long time and are so in tune with our world that many of their behaviors sometimes surprise us, like their ability to use natural atmospheric forces to help determine direction during migration. But another remarkable thing they do, which occasionally amazes us, is building their nests, as some can be incredibly elaborate. Other animals also build nests, such as the Weaverbird and the Woodpecker. Here are the 20 most incredible nests in the animal kingdom. But before we get started, make sure to subscribe to our channel and leave your like. Now, let's get started. Number 20. Weaverbird Nest. What better way to start this list than with the first animal, and more specifically, the first bird, which is named Weaver, precisely because that is its specialty. The weaver, or Weaverbird, belongs to a family with over 100 species spread across the world. Its name couldn't be more fitting, as these birds are widely recognized for their impressive ability to craft extremely detailed nests, regardless of the environment they find themselves in. The responsibility for nest construction falls solely on the males, who, once their work is done, hope to attract a female interested in sharing the space. Depending on the species and the natural resources available around them, the nests can be built using plant fibers, sturdy twigs, and in less favorable situations, the Weaverbird may even resort to using strings and threads to complete its masterpiece. Grasses are particularly valued as building material due to their flexibility and the ease with which they can be found in nature. To complete the nest, it can take up to 1,000 carefully interwoven strands. If you think all nests follow a single design pattern, you're mistaken. The shape can vary greatly. It can be large, elongated, or even rounded, depending not only on where the bird is building but also on the materials it finds available in the environment. Once the work is finished, the male makes sure to signal to the females that his apartment is officially ready. And it's worth noting that he is not the only bird to meticulously craft his own nest. At this point, it's up to the female to decide whether the structure meets her standards. If she finds the location suitable and well built, she quickly takes over the space and, within a few days, lays her eggs there. But wait, there's a curious and surprising detail about these birds. Since it's the males of the species who dedicate time and effort to building the nests, it would be reasonable to assume that most of them would have the chance to become fathers, right? Well, that assumption is wrong. According to information published by the BBC, most male weaverbirds will never have the chance to become fathers in their lifetime. A rather tragic fate, considering all the work and dedication put into this task. Number 19. Woodpeckers. You might imagine that, due to their characteristic behavior of pecking and drilling into wood, you already know everything about how woodpeckers reproduce, and to some extent, you'd be right. But as with many aspects of nature, the reality is a bit more complex and fascinating than it seems at first glance. Some species of woodpeckers reproduce in a wide variety of environments, such as deciduous tree forests, oak or beech groves, areas with dead or dying trees, riverbeds, recently burned areas, regenerating clearings, beaver swamps, orchards, parks, farms, prairies, and even road edges. In other words, these birds have an impressive territorial range, which might be one of the reasons explaining their long survival over time. However, the actual reproductive behavior of the woodpecker is a little more detailed. The woodpecker, in search of a safe place for its eggs, selects a tree and begins drilling into it with precision, creating a hole where it will deposit its precious future generations. The size of the hole, surprisingly, doesn't follow a rigid pattern. It depends on the species of woodpecker and the number of eggs it plans to incubate. As a result, the holes can vary greatly, being larger or smaller depending on the bird's needs. The most interesting and impressive aspect of this behavior is that the woodpecker doesn't just drill a nest in any tree, it goes further, drilling deeply into the wood. This strategy is intended to provide extra protection from predators, allowing woodpeckers and their eggs to remain safe. The chamber of a dwarf woodpecker, for example, can extend up to 30 centimeters from the opening, while the downy woodpecker can create an impressive chamber up to 60 centimeters deep. These depths are enough to keep the eggs and chicks out of reach from curious predators like raccoons, which could cause serious harm. This reproductive behavior not only ensures that the woodpecker has a safe place to raise its young, but also demonstrates the incredible ingenuity and skill of this species in protecting itself while the new generation grows. Number 18. Bee nests. Bee nests are typically known as hives, although they can also be referred to simply as bee nests. much like you would say wasp nest or something similar. In the end, the name doesn't matter much, as long as proper care is taken when dealing with them and one knows how to behave appropriately. But even though the term nest isn't the most common for many, hives are undoubtedly a true masterpiece of natural engineering. Think about it. They need to be large enough to house an entire army of bees, each one playing a vital role in various tasks within the colony. Furthermore, it's essential for the hive to remain secure, and the queen, responsible for the continuation of the species, must be well cared for and protected, not to mention the feeding aspect, which is a story on its own. Hives are made up of hexagonal cells, an incredibly efficient structure designed to optimize honey production. This precise geometric formation requires minimal wax and allows for the storage of large quantities of honey. It is even said that bees are brilliant mathematicians, as they intuitively know how to build their hives in an optimized and efficient way while working together to carry out the various functions of the colony. And of course, if the hive is attacked or threatened in any way, the bees will defend it bravely, even risking their own lives to ensure the safety of their home and the queen. In some cases, these hives can reach impressive proportions, exceeding several meters in height. So this is definitely a nest you don't want to disturb or interfere with in any way, because if you do, well, it was nice knowing you. Number 17. Weaver ant nest. Yes, there is another creature known as the weaver, but this time we're not talking about a bird, we're talking about an ant. Now, you might be imagining I'm referring to those ants that build enormous underground colonies, some of which can be so large they occupy an area the size of a human being. However, that's not the case here, as the weaver ant leads a very different and unique lifestyle. Unlike common ants that make their homes in the ground, the weaver ant builds its colony in a rather peculiar way. It uses leaves and intricately weaves them together, literally stitching them to form the structure of its home. In fact, the ants work collaboratively to ensure the leaves are woven correctly, creating a safe space for the colony. And it's important to note that these ants are small, which makes the work even more impressive. Compared to them, the leaves they use are enormous, almost like a human trying to lift a large sheet of plywood alone. The size difference between the ants and the leaves is immense. To bind the leaves together, they use silk produced by their larvae, a perfect adhesive material to glue the leaves to one another, creating the base of the nest. Additionally, they also forage for food to ensure the workers in the colony remain fed, which allows the work to be carried out quickly and efficiently. This innovative concept not only ensures progress, but also guarantees that all the ants in the colony benefit throughout the construction process. Once again, the behavior of the weaver ants is quite different from many other species of ants, making their nest something truly worthy of appreciation, as it's a real collaborative work where all the ants work together to achieve a common goal. And when the work is finally finished, everyone in the colony enjoys the benefits of a well-built home. Number 16. Goldfinch nest. Returning to the fascinating world of birds, let's now take a look at a species that stands out for its creative nest-building skills, using the resources it finds at its disposal. The goldfinch, although a small and seemingly ordinary bird, has an impressive way of building its nest, one that is both durable and well-crafted. It uses a combination of leaves, spider webs, thin grasses, and plant fibers to create a solid and functional structure. As we can see, the goldfinch dedicates itself immensely to the nest-building process, carefully stitching the materials together to ensure its new home is as safe and comfortable as possible for the upcoming chicks. The goldfinch's nest-building skills were so remarkable that they were recorded in a special jungle book. A passage from this book vividly describes the nest's structure, stating that it is cup-shaped, lined with soft materials, and positioned amidst dense foliage. The leaves supporting the nest are arranged so that their upper surfaces face outward, making it even harder to locate the nest and providing excellent camouflage. Additionally, the holes made along the edges of the leaves are extremely small, so they don't darken the leaves, further enhancing the nest's concealment. In some cases, the goldfinch uses a single large leaf to build the nest, joining the edges of the leaf with small fibers, creating a structure that, at times, resembles stitching, as fibers from a rivet can extend to an adjacent hole. This stitching is done by piercing the leaves and pulling the fibers through, causing the fibers to spread outward, creating a rivet-like appearance. In the end, one can observe a wide variation in the shape and construction of goldfinch nests, with some even having no leaf lining at the bottom. Overall, it's clear that this bird is truly intelligent and creative in how it builds and adapts its nest in such an ingenious way. Impressive, isn't it? Number 15. Swallow nest. You could even be forgiven for not having an immediate image of what a swallow's nest would look like. One of the reasons for this is directly related to the bird's nature. What I mean is that the swallow is a bird species widely known for spending most of its life in the air, flying in the skies. Therefore, this bird's true home isn't necessarily in a fixed physical location, but rather in the vast skies it inhabits. However, even swallows with their aerial lifestyle need a place to rest, especially when it's time to lay their eggs. And at that point, they descend to the ground or to strategic locations to rest and raise their young. What do these birds do when they need a nest? The answer is simple. They look around and use whatever is available. For example, certain species of swallows have no hesitation in occupying old woodpecker nests, as the hole has already been excavated, and if it's not being used, why not take advantage of it for their own needs? Additionally, humans, with all their creativity, build artificial nests for swallows, using boxes of all kinds, and the swallows are quite happy with these makeshift shelters. In a way, this is similar to the behavior of the purple martin, which is also known for living in the boxes it finds around it, using them as shelter. There are even swallows that prefer to live on the ground or on cliff edges, demonstrating that for them, the issue isn't so much the type of structure, but rather the safety of the chosen location. In summary, it's clear that the swallow is not a demanding bird when it comes to where it lives, but rather an extremely adaptable one, capable of thriving in a wide variety of settings, as long as they offer protection and safety. Thus, it can be said that the swallow is one of the most versatile birds of all, as its goal is not to create complex structures, but to make the surrounding environment work for its survival needs. Number 13. Edible nest swiftlet. Now, you might wonder what makes this bird so special, and to be honest, it might take some time to figure it out based solely on its name. Anyway, the edible nest swiftlet is a bird that can be found in exotic places like the Andaman Islands, where these birds are known to reside in caves, making their nests deep within these caves and in dimly lit areas. These swiftlets are fascinating not only because of their habitat, but also because of how they navigate. They use echolocation to orient themselves, emitting sound waves that bounce off surrounding surfaces, allowing them to detect obstacles and find their way in dark and unfamiliar environments. These birds tend to choose their nesting sites with the primary goal of protecting themselves from natural predators, adopting a very clever tactic to ensure their survival and, of course, to gather what they need to live. And honestly, it's not every day you hear about birds using echolocation. Normally, when we think of echolocation, we think of bats, but clearly, the swiftlets show that birds can also employ this remarkable ability. As for the nests, yes, they are edible, but not in the sense that the bird will consume its own nest, though that would technically work if it wanted to. In reality, it is humans who consume these nests. Yes, it's true. People actually seek out these nests and eat them as a delicacy. But what's the reason for this? Well, for starters, they say the taste is delicious, although, as always, taste is subjective, so we can leave that aspect aside. What makes these nests so sought after is the fact that they are extremely rare, and due to this rarity, they have become a prized delicacy in places like China. Because of this, people search for these nests and sell them for thousands of dollars. Oh, and did I mention that these nests are made from the swiftlet's saliva? Yep, they're made from the bird's spit. Yes, there are people paying thousands of dollars for a soup made from an edible nest swiftlet's spit because it has been chosen as a rare and exotic delicacy. What's that famous Las Vegas saying? A sucker is born every minute? Well, in cases like this, you can probably believe that. Number 12. European bee eater. Now, this name will certainly make insects around the world, especially bee populations, which, let's face it, are quite numerous, tremble in fear. These bee-eaters, as the name suggests, are social birds that group together and nest colonially, preferably in sandbanks along riverbanks. Usually, in early May, these birds start digging a relatively long tunnel where they lay 5 to 8 white, spherical eggs around early June. Both the male and female take turns caring for these eggs, incubating them for about 3 weeks. In addition, these birds tend to feed and rest in groups, making them even more fascinating. They are not exactly typical in terms of their nesting habits, which makes their way of living all the more interesting. Another important point is that this nesting style can sometimes be a challenge for the bee-eaters. as they need the right type of soil to ensure their nests are suitable, without causing damage to the surrounding environment. You probably wouldn't associate this level of specificity with birds, but as is the case with many species, some of them have very specific preferences about where and how they live, and they will do whatever it takes to ensure they live the way they want. As mentioned earlier, the bee-eaters primarily feed on insects, especially bees, wasps, and hornets, hunting these prey while flying on foraging trips from an exposed perch. Before consuming a bee, the European bee-eater removes the stinger by repeatedly striking it on a hard surface, quite a curious technique. And to give you an idea of how voracious these birds can be, a single bee-eater can consume about 250 bees in one day. That's quite an impressive amount of bees, isn't it? When it comes to a healthy diet, this bird certainly doesn't hold back. Number 11. Caddisflies. Next, we have the caddisflies. If you're not familiar with these creatures, know that they are a type of aquatic insect and, to the surprise of many, they are quite numerous. Currently, there are more than 7,000 species of caddisflies worldwide, and about 1,300 of them can be found in North America alone. Given the large number of species, it would be reasonable to assume that there is an abundance of habitats for these flies to live in. However, as with many animal life cycles, the choice of habitat depends on where they are in their life cycle. For example, these flies grow in large numbers, with each female laying up to 800 eggs in a type of jelly, and to ensure the safety of their larvae, the mother constructs protective tubes around them, made from materials such as sticks, branches, and other items found in the environment. These casings are carefully placed in areas where the larvae will have the least risk of being disturbed. As the larvae grow and mature, they seek out their new homes in the most suitable way possible, depending on their immediate environment. And it's worth noting that these insects are found in various parts of the world. Thanks to the specific habitat preferences of different species, many of them can coexist in a single stream or river, something not so common in other animal species. Ultimately, caddisflies are willing to build their nests and lay their eggs wherever possible, which explains their presence in various regions around the planet, as they are indifferent to the type of terrain or climate they live in. Number 10. Bowerbird nest. Vogelkop Bowerbird. Now, it's highly likely that you've heard of the famous and perhaps even somewhat infamous bird known as the bowerbird. This bird is widely recognized for putting immense effort into building its home, but not in the conventional way. In fact, it doesn't build the nest for itself, at least not in the traditional sense. Instead, it creates an elaborate nest, but the main goal is not personal comfort. The focus is on attracting a potential mate. When it comes to the nest of the Vogelkop bowerbird, these examples are the largest and most detailed of all. This impressive structure is a cone-shaped nest, resembling a small hut, which can reach 100 centimeters in height and 160 centimeters in diameter. Its entrance is typically supported by two sturdy sticks resembling columns, and at the front of the nest, there's a lawn that is carefully cleared of debris and covered with moss. To ensure that its nest is truly exceptional, the male goes to great lengths to gather the most impressive items possible, with the intention of attracting a mate. I'm talking about items like precious stones, vibrant flowers, colorful objects, and much more, all to make the nest visually irresistible. If that's not enough, the males become almost obsessive about the appearance of the nest, and if there's a neighboring bowerbird nest, it will go all out to ensure that its own nest stands out. While this may make them somewhat materialistic, the females do indeed judge the males not only by the quality of the nest, but also by the items chosen to decorate it. If the female doesn't like the environment prepared by the male, she simply walks away. So clearly the life of the Vogelkop bowerbird is not easy, and it must go all out to impress. Number 9. Termite nests. Now, you may be wondering, don't termites live in mounds? Well, the answer is both yes and no. There are some termite species that, much like ants, prefer to live in mounds, but in places like the United States, these species are not common, so it's more likely that you'll find termite nests near your home. These nests are what make termites a significant threat to homeowners. Termite nests can be located anywhere between 10 and 45 centimeters or even deeper underground, and they're made up of several chambers called galleries. These galleries are connected by mud tunnels, and the tunnels don't just serve to connect the galleries, but also to link the termites to food sources. Like ants, termites are very meticulous in constructing their homes, ensuring they have access to all the necessary resources. What's even more impressive is that, as you probably guessed, they aren't afraid to expand their territory and even spread across an entire acre in search of food. This, once again, is one of the reasons people fear termites so much. You usually don't find their nests until it's too late. Number 8. Montezuma's nest or pendulum nest. You were probably expecting me to make a joke about Montezuma's revenge? Well, I thought about it, but the joke didn't turn out too well. Back to animals. The Montezuma or pendula is one of the most iconic birds in Costa Rica. But why is that? Well, partly it's because of their nests, but also due to the sounds they make when calling. A trembling melody. The song of this bird mixes conversational chirps with bubbles and is a key element of the species' mating ritual. This is no different from many other bird species trying to attract potential mates. The Montezuma or pendula builds its nest in large colonies, where a chosen tree is decorated with intricately woven pendulous structures. This is very unusual for most bird species, which don't like sharing the same tree, let alone living alongside multiple other birds. This just shows that this bird is special in many ways. Number 7. African jacana. The African jacana is a bird species that makes very efficient use of its environment to build its nest, especially considering that this bird inhabits freshwater regions across various parts of Africa. However, what truly makes it unique is the male's behavior, as he builds the nest on floating islands located in deeper water areas. After constructing the nest, he uses these islands as a stage for a mating ritual, performing a series of circular movements around the island. Well, to be direct, we can say that this behavior tends to be, let's say, a bit peculiar, and we'll leave it at that without going into further details. The key point here is that the African jacana is an extremely fascinating bird, and the way it uses its natural environment to live is truly something unique, not to mention its long legs, which allow it to move agilely between flooded areas. Moreover, the female doesn't always lay her eggs directly in the nest. On some occasions, she chooses to place them around the nest or even in the surrounding vegetation. Number 6. Mollyfowl nest. This is quite a peculiar name for a bird, considering that birds are, by definition, already avians. But, well, why not include it in the name to make sure no one forgets? Oh, what progress! The mollyfowl is a strong-built bird that inhabits the ground in Australia, similar in size to a domestic chicken, with which it shares a distant relationship. Who would have guessed? It stands out for its imposing mounds of nests, which are meticulously built by the males, and for the absence of parental care after the chicks are born. In other words, clearly, they're not the affectionate and nurturing type of birds, but rather the "I built you a place to live and good luck out there" type. Another atypical behavior of these birds is that they generally don't fly continuously. They prefer to walk, even when being chased by predators. But, well, what matters is what works, right? Furthermore, they use a wide variety of sounds to communicate with each other and attract their mates for mating. Number 5. Hammerbull nest. Now, let's take a look at a truly peculiar story about a hammerbull, and you'll surely be a bit surprised. Typically, these birds build their nests in the waters around their habitat, or, in some cases, in dead trees submerged in these flooded areas. However, once, a birdwatcher noticed something unusual. A hammerbull was, daily, collecting new materials to build its nest in its region, even though there was no visible body of water where it could actually build its nest. Upon closer investigation, it was discovered that the bird was building its nest on a tree located on the edge of a road, a completely living tree which not only provided the necessary space to spread its nest but also ensured the bird's safety from predators. Normally, the hammerbull's nest consists of solid walls, a sturdy roof, and a tunnel lined with clay leading to a well-protected internal chamber where the female lays her eggs. However, this particular bird opted for a different approach to nest construction, and to that, we can only respond with a sincere thank you for keeping the spirit of innovation alive. Impressive hammerbull. Number 4. Merganser duck nest. The Merganser duck, which should not be confused with the famous brand Little Debbie, is a small bird but completely unmistakable when you see it, especially due to its unique coloring and the places it chooses to live, like the calm waters of freshwater lakes and similar aquatic environments. In fact, these birds are widely recognized for making their homes in small colonies of their own species, and like crows, they prefer to build their nests at the water's edge, as their legs are quite spread apart, making land movement difficult. Regarding reproduction, it is common for the female to lay between 4 to 7 eggs, and when the adult bird goes out to hunt or forage, it takes special care to cover the eggs with aquatic plants, creating a protective layer that makes it harder for predators to detect them. After hatching, the chicks are fully prepared to swim independently, although on some occasions, the parents choose to carry them until they are fully self-sufficient. Ah, what a lovely scene in the bird world. It's comforting to know that some bird families care so lovingly for each other, forming true bonds of care and protection. Number 3. Paper wasps. Ah, how I wish these wasps were actually made of paper and didn't have the ability to sting me, because that would make life much simpler, or at least, in this specific case, make things a lot easier. But, unfortunately, that's not the reality. These wasps are actually extremely skilled when it comes to building their homes. They create their nests from a pulp they make using wood fibers and various plants, and they are often called umbrella wasps because of the characteristic shape of their nests, which really resemble the silhouette of an umbrella. Inside these nests, there are several well-organized compartments used to house the eggs and larvae of the wasps, providing a safe space for their growth and development. Normally, these nests are located in easily accessible areas, such as eaves of houses, doors, or windows, and hung in strategic locations. Made with incredible complexity, these nests have fragile, delicate cones formed in a structure that resembles the aforementioned shape. To be fair, these are not the most aggressive wasps in the animal kingdom, but as wasps, they won't hesitate to sting if they feel you've gotten too close. So, don't say you weren't properly warned. Number 2. Red ovenbird. Just a heads up, I'm starting with 2 types of birds, and the red ovenbird is widely known for its exceptional nest-building skills. And in case you're wondering why they're called ovenbirds, well, the answer lies in the characteristic shape of their homes, which resemble the structure of a small oven. These birds are, in fact, quite versatile when it comes to choosing where to build their homes, as they can do so both in the wild and in urban areas when needed. Their nests are made of clay, and they build them primarily during the rainy season when the clay is moist enough to be shaped effectively. Additionally, the nesting habits of the ovenbird are, to some extent, shrouded in mystery, as their nests tend to be extremely fragile, making it difficult to investigate their construction more deeply. Another interesting aspect that justifies the name ovenbird is that, like other bird species that build similar style nests, these birds use the design of their homes to incubate their eggs without the need to stay in the spot all the time. This feature allows the bird to leave the nest while still maintaining the incubation of the eggs without needing to be present constantly. Number 1. American robin nest. While the vast majority of bird species build their nests alone or attempt some kind of mating ritual to attract a partner, the American robin stands out as an interesting exception. In this species, the male and female work together collaboratively to build the nest, with a clear division of tasks. The male robin is responsible for bringing the materials needed for construction, while the female, with her exceptional skill, is the one who actually builds the nest in the chosen location. She begins the foundation of the nest using mud, and then adds grass and other natural materials to reinforce the structure, ensuring that when they finally lay their characteristic blue eggs, they are well protected and secure. In some cases, the building process can take up to an entire week, showing that it is a meticulous and time-consuming task. Additionally, both parents are careful to choose the nest site, ensuring that it is suitable for the safety of the eggs, protecting them from both predators and harsh weather conditions. But once the nest is complete, it becomes a cozy and secure home for the chicks. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed our content, make sure to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Don't forget to check out other interesting content appearing on your screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video. See you next time.